Emily Collins, a 34-year-old woman with a gentle demeanor and a heart full of love, had built a life that many would call ordinary but to her felt deeply fulfilling. Nestled in a quiet suburban neighborhood, her modest home was a sanctuary of warmth and familiarity, where the walls echoed with laughter and the soft footsteps of her two young children. The garden outside bloomed with tulips and daisies, a hobby she had cultivated slowly over the years, nurturing life in the same way she nurtured her family. Each morning, Emily's routine unfolded with comforting predictability. She would rise early, the soft light of dawn filtering through the curtains as she prepared breakfast. Her children's sleepy faces, still tousled from sleep, smiled up at her as she packed their lunches and helped them ready for school. Her part-time job at the local elementary school, where she worked as a teaching assistant, fit seamlessly into her days. It was a role she cherished, not only for the steady income, but for the connection it gave her to the community, and the chance to contribute to something larger than herself. Emily's evenings were reserved for her partner, Mark, and their family. They would gather around the dinner table, sharing stories about their day, the children's antics, and plans for the weekend. These moments, simple in their nature, were the threads that wove together the fabric of Emily's life. They were the moments she held onto tightly, especially as the world outside seemed to rush and change with dizzying speed. Though her life was far from extravagant, it was stable and secure, built on a foundation of love and trust. Mark, a man she had known since their college days, was her anchor. He worked long hours as a project manager for a construction firm, often coming home tired but always making time for his family. His presence was a steady reassurance in Emily's life, and she counted on his support as much as he counted on hers. The neighborhood itself was a close-knit community where neighbors greeted each other by name, and children played freely in the cul-de-sacs. Emily found solace in this sense of belonging, attending weekend barbecues and school fundraisers, her smile genuine as she engaged with the people around her. Her friends often remarked on how balanced her life seemed, how she managed to juggle the demands of motherhood, work, and partnership with a grace that was enviable. Yet, beneath the surface of this picture-perfect life, subtle changes began to stir, a quiet ripple in the calm waters. It started with small, almost imperceptible shifts in Mark's behavior. He remained the attentive father and loving partner during the day, but there were moments when his eyes would cloud over with distraction. He would brush off questions about his work with vague answers and sometimes seemed lost in thought during family dinners. Emily noticed but attributed these lapses to the stress of his demanding job. Emily's trust in Mark was unwavering. They had built their life together on honesty and mutual respect, or so she believed. She often found herself forgiving the late nights he spent at the office, convincing herself that his absences were necessary sacrifices for their future. The foundation of her security was so strong that even the smallest crack felt more like a shadow than a threat. Despite the occasional unease, Emily's days continued in their rhythm. She found joy in the ordinary, the way her son's laughter filled the living room as he chased their dog, the soft touch of her daughter's hand as they walked to school, the quiet satisfaction after a productive day at work. These moments grounded her, reminding her of what truly mattered. Her evenings with Mark were a blend of routine and comfort. They would unwind together on the couch, Mark's arm around her shoulder, sharing the news from their day or planning future vacations they hoped to take. These shared plans were their promise to each other, a vision of a life growing richer with time. Emily treasured these times, feeling a deep sense of connection that reassured her of their bond. She also found solace in her own solitude once the children were tucked into bed. With a cup of chamomile tea in hand and soft music playing in the background, Emily would sit by the window, watching the stars emerge. These quiet moments were her refuge, a chance to breathe and reflect on the blessings of her life. She often felt grateful for the love that surrounded her, the family she had created, and the peace she had found. Her trust extended beyond Mark and into the relationships she nurtured with friends and neighbors. Emily was known for her warmth and kindness, always ready to lend an ear or a helping hand. Whether it was organizing a fundraiser at the school or baking cookies for a new neighbor, she embraced the role of a connector, weaving threads of community wherever she went. Yet, even in this life so carefully tended, there was an undercurrent of vulnerability. Emily's heart was open, her trust freely given, but that openness also left her exposed. She believed in the goodness of those around her, in the strength of love to overcome any hardship. It was this belief that made her hesitant to question the small inconsistencies she began to notice in Mark's behavior. These early signs were subtle: a phone call he would quickly end when she entered the room, a hurried explanation for a late work meeting, a distant look that lingered longer than usual. Emily found herself rationalizing these moments, telling herself that everyone had stress, that Mark was doing his best to balance everything. Though a flicker of doubt stirred within her, Emily chose to focus on the trust that had always defined their relationship. She reminded herself of the years they had shared, the promises they had made, and the life they had built. Trust, she believed, was the bedrock of their family, unshakable and pure. As the days passed, Emily's world remained outwardly unchanged, but the seeds of uncertainty had been sown. It was a quiet tension, a whisper beneath the surface of her contentment, a shadow that she was not yet ready to confront. For now, she clung to the warmth of her home, the laughter of her children, and the steady presence of Mark, holding tightly to the trust that had always been her guiding light. Mark Reynolds was the embodiment of reliability in Emily's life, a man whose presence radiated a quiet strength that anchored their family. At 36, he carried himself with the easy confidence of someone who had long since settled into the role of devoted partner and father. His warm smile and steady gaze were familiar comforts that Emily had come to rely on, a steadying force amid the chaos of daily life. In the mornings, Mark was the first to rise, often slipping out quietly to prepare breakfast or help the children get ready for school before the day fully began. His attentiveness was evident in the small gestures, the way he carefully tied their son's shoelaces or patiently listened as their daughter recounted a dream from the night before. These moments painted a picture of a man wholeheartedly invested in his family, a portrait Emily cherished and trusted implicitly. Weekends were filled with shared activities that highlighted the harmony of their household. Mark would take the kids to the park, their laughter ringing out as they played on the swings and climbed the jungle gym. Emily would join them when her schedule allowed, savoring the simple joy of watching her family thrive together. Barbecues with neighbors, family movie nights piled on the couch with blankets and popcorn, and quiet walks after dinner were the rhythms that made their life feel rich and full. Mark's attentiveness extended beyond the children. He was equally thoughtful toward Emily, often surprising her with small acts of kindness, a favorite book waiting on the kitchen table, a cup of coffee made just the way she liked it, or a spontaneous invitation for a dinner date. These gestures, though modest, spoke volumes about the affection he held for her, reaffirming the bond they had nurtured over the years. His support was unwavering, especially during the challenges Emily faced balancing work and motherhood. When deadlines loomed or the children were sick, Mark stepped in without hesitation, sharing the load and providing a steady hand. His encouragement was a balm during moments of self-doubt, reminding her of her strengths and the importance of their partnership. Among friends and family, Mark was often described as the perfect partner and father, a reputation that Emily never took lightly. She admired his dedication and found comfort in the way he seamlessly integrated into their lives, creating a stable environment where love and respect flourished. It was this image of Mark that fortified Emily's trust, making the occasional late nights or unexpected absences easier to accept. His late evenings were usually explained away as work commitments, and Emily respected the demands of his job. Mark's role as a project manager required long hours and occasional travel, and though it meant sacrifices, Emily believed in the purpose behind his efforts. She often reminded herself that these were temporary strains, necessary for securing their family's future. During these times, Mark's phone would occasionally buzz with messages or calls, and while he was sometimes reluctant to share details, Emily understood the need for discretion in his profession. She respected his privacy, trusting that his secrecy was not a sign of betrayal but a professional necessity. Their conversations about work were always candid within the boundaries he set, reinforcing the sense of transparency that underpinned their relationship. Despite the demands of his career, Mark made a point to be present whenever possible. He rarely missed school events, parent-teacher meetings, or birthday celebrations, always going out of his way to prioritize family moments. Emily found solace in this consistency, the knowledge that no matter how busy he became, Mark's heart remained at home. Their partnership was built on shared dreams and mutual respect. They often spoke about the future, plans for a bigger house, vacations to distant places, and the hopes they held for their children's education and happiness. These conversations were laced with optimism and a deep sense of partnership, a testament to the life they were building together. Mark's tenderness was evident in the quiet moments they shared away from the bustle of family life. On weekend mornings, they would linger over coffee, exchanging thoughts about their week or simply enjoying each other's company in comfortable silence. His hand resting gently on hers or the way he looked at her with genuine affection were reminders of the love that still burned quietly beneath the surface of routine. Emily's trust in Mark was not blind but earned through years of shared experiences and unwavering support. She believed in the man who stood beside her, the father who adored their children, and the partner who made her feel cherished. This belief shielded her from doubts, even when subtle signs whispered otherwise. In the neighborhood, their family was often seen as a model of harmony. Neighbors admired Mark's involvement and the way he balanced work with family life. At community gatherings, he was approachable and warm, always ready to lend a hand or engage in friendly conversation. Emily felt proud of the life they had created, a life that seemed to embody the ideals she held dear. Even with the occasional late nights, Mark's demeanor remained unchanged. He was attentive on the weekends, present for the little moments that mattered most. A bike ride with the children, helping with homework, or simply sitting together in the living room watching a movie, these were the threads that knitted their family closer. Emily found comfort in these patterns in the predictability of Mark's love and presence. It was a love that had weathered challenges and grown stronger over time. The small acts of tenderness, the shared responsibilities, and the unspoken understanding between them all contributed to a sense of normalcy she clung to. Yet, there were times when Emily caught glimpses of something beneath the surface, fleeting moments when Mark seemed distracted or distant. These instances were rare and brief, easily brushed aside by the warmth that usually surrounded them. She trusted him deeply, believing that their connection was resilient enough to withstand the pressures of life. As the days passed, the facade of their perfect household remained intact. Mark's role as a supportive partner and devoted father was unquestioned, and Emily's faith in their relationship held firm. The small imperfections in their routine were smoothed over by the larger picture of love and commitment. In the quiet moments before bed, when the children were asleep and the house settled into stillness, Emily would sometimes reflect on the life they had built. She felt a profound gratitude for the man who stood by her side, for the family they nurtured, and for the trust that bound them together. It was this trust that gave her courage, a foundation she believed was unbreakable. Though the subtle shifts in Mark's behavior lingered at the edges of her awareness, Emily chose to focus on the love that had defined their years together. In her heart, she held on to the belief that their bond was strong enough to weather any storm, that the life they shared was a testament to their commitment. With each passing day, Mark's presence remained a comforting constant, a steady hand guiding their family through the complexities of life. And for Emily, that was enough to keep the shadows of doubt at bay for now. Emily's world, once painted in soft hues of certainty, began to shift imperceptibly, like the slow unraveling of a familiar tapestry. The subtle changes in Mark's behavior that she had previously dismissed now took on sharper edges, casting shadows where there had been only light. Doubts, once quiet whispers in the back of her mind, grew louder with each passing day, stirring a turmoil she was reluctant to face. It started with missed calls, those brief moments when Mark's phone would ring, but he would let it go to voicemail, glancing at the screen with a flicker of hesitation. Emily noticed him silencing the device quickly when she entered the room, his expression tightening for just a moment before returning to his usual calm. These small evasions planted seeds of unease, though she fought to believe they were innocent. Then came the secretive phone conversations. Emily would catch snippets of hushed voices, hurried goodbyes, and the occasional pause as Mark's tone shifted from warm to guarded. He became adept at stepping away when calls came in, retreating to the garage or the backyard with a phone pressed tightly to his ear. The casual openness they once shared around their phones had diminished, replaced by a veil of secrecy that Emily struggled to penetrate. Mark's distant behavior was perhaps the most painful change. The man who had been so present during family dinners now seemed distracted, his eyes glazing over as if his mind wandered far away. When she reached out to touch his arm or catch his gaze, the connection felt fleeting, like trying to grasp smoke. Emily found herself longing for the warmth that had once been constant, now replaced by a quiet withdrawal. Internally, Emily wrestled with a storm of conflicting emotions. Part of her clung desperately to the trust that had always defined their relationship, unwilling to let go of the foundation she had built her life upon. Another part, quieter but insistent, urged her to look closer, to question what she had been too afraid to acknowledge. The tension between denial and suspicion created a knot in her chest that tightened with each passing night. She told herself that Mark was under stress, that his job might be weighing heavily on him. She reassured herself that everyone needed moments of privacy, and that her imagination might be running wild. These rationalizations offered temporary relief, but the gnawing feeling beneath them persisted, a quiet alarm she could no longer ignore. Emily's attempts to address her concerns were tentative. She broached the subject gently, asking about his days and the pressures he faced at work. Mark would respond with vague assurances, deflecting with promises that everything was fine, and that she had nothing to worry about. His reassurances sounded hollow to Emily's ears, but she clung to them nonetheless, desperate for normalcy. The children remained blissfully unaware of the growing tension in their home. Their laughter and innocent chatter created a stark contrast to the unease that simmered beneath the surface. Emily found herself torn between protecting them from the truth and confronting the reality that threatened to upend their family's peace. One evening, the fragile balance shattered. It was a quiet night, the kind where the house seemed to hold its breath. Emily was in the kitchen preparing dinner, when she overheard Mark's phone ring from the living room. She hesitated, but curiosity and a sudden surge of dread compelled her to listen. The conversation was brief, but the words cut through her like a knife. Mark's voice was low, urgent, and tinged with a tone she had never heard before. "I told you I'd handle it," he said. "No, she can't know." "Not yet." The voice on the other end was muffled, but the tension was unmistakable. Emily's heart pounded as she strained to hear more, but Mark ended the call abruptly, slipping the phone into his pocket with a quickness that betrayed guilt. He turned to her, eyes meeting hers with a flicker of something she couldn't quite place, avoidance, perhaps, or fear. The room felt suddenly cold, the warmth of their home replaced by a chill of suspicion. That night, Emily lay awake, the words echoing in her mind. The certainty she had once held was now fractured, replaced by a maze of questions with no clear answers. She replayed the conversation repeatedly, searching for clues, explanations, anything that might restore the trust that felt so fragile. The next days were marked by a growing distance between them. Mark's attempts at normalcy felt forced, his smiles less genuine, his touches more perfunctory. Emily's own walls rose in response, her heart guarded against further pain. The silence between them grew heavy, filled with unspoken fears and mounting doubts. Friends noticed the change too. When Emily confided in a close neighbor, her voice trembled with vulnerability. "I don't know what's happening," she admitted. "I want to believe him, but something feels wrong." The neighbor offered comfort and a listening ear, reminding Emily that she was not alone. Despite the turmoil, Emily refused to confront Mark directly, afraid that the truth might be too devastating to bear. She clung to the hope that this was a passing storm, a misunderstanding that could be resolved with time and communication. But deep down, she feared that the life she had trusted so completely was unraveling before her eyes. The once familiar rhythms of their home were disrupted, replaced by a tension that hung in the air like a thick fog. Emily found herself second-guessing every interaction, every glance, and every word. The trust that had been her anchor was slipping through her fingers, and with it, the sense of security that had defined her world. In moments of solitude, Emily's mind raced with scenarios, some hopeful, others dark and frightening. She questioned her own judgment, wondering if she had missed signs or misinterpreted intentions. The emotional turmoil left her exhausted, caught between the desire to believe in Mark's goodness and the nagging suspicion that something was terribly wrong. Her children's needs remained a priority, grounding her amidst the chaos. Emily focused on their smiles, their school achievements, and their unguarded joy, drawing strength from their innocence. Yet, even as she immersed herself in motherhood, the shadow of doubt lingered, a constant reminder that her world was no longer as simple as it seemed. Emily's nights became restless, haunted by unanswered questions and the fear of betrayal. She found herself waking in the early hours, heart racing, replaying moments and conversations, searching for meaning in the fragments. The emotional weight pressed down on her, a heavy burden she was not yet ready to share. Though the pain was raw and the path ahead uncertain, Emily's spirit remained unbroken. Somewhere beneath the surface, a resolve was forming, a quiet determination to seek the truth, no matter how painful it might be. For now, she held on to the fragile hope that clarity would come, that the trust she once took for granted could be restored, or that, at the very least, she would find the strength to face whatever lay ahead. The tension in their home was palpable, a silent rift growing wider with each passing day. Emily sensed that the life she had carefully constructed was on the brink of change. And as the shadows lengthened, she stood at the edge of a precipice, uncertain of what awaited her on the other side. The night Emily had long dreaded finally arrived, a quiet evening that bore the weight of inevitability. The children were asleep, their soft breathing filling the rooms like a fragile lullaby, while the house held its breath in anticipation. Emily sat on the edge of the couch, her hands trembling slightly as she waited for Mark to return home from what he had said was a late meeting. The hours stretched thin, each minute thick with unspoken fears. When Mark finally entered, the weariness in his eyes was more than physical, it carried the burden of secrets and the weight of silence between them. Emily's heart pounded as she summoned the courage she had been mustering for weeks. The moment was fragile, poised between hope and heartbreak. "Mark," she began softly, her voice barely more than a whisper, "we need to talk." There was no anger in her tone, only a raw vulnerability that she could no longer contain. He nodded, his face tightening as he sat beside her, sensing the gravity of what was to come. "I overheard your phone call," Emily said, struggling to steady her voice. "The one where you said I couldn't know." "Mark, what's going on?" Her eyes searched his, pleading for honesty, for a truth that would make sense of the growing distance between them. Mark's shoulders sagged as if the weight of the world pressed down upon him. He took a deep breath, the silence stretching before he finally spoke. "Emily, I never wanted you to find out this way," he said, his voice heavy with regret. "There's so much I've been trying to protect you from all of this." Her heart clenched, the fear crystallizing into a sharp ache. "Protect me?" "From what?" she asked, her breath catching. The vulnerability she had exposed now felt like a fragile thread, tremulous and thin. Mark's confession spilled forth reluctantly, the truth unraveling in painful fragments. He revealed a double life she had never imagined, secret meetings, hidden phone calls, and a betrayal so profound it shattered the foundation of their years together. There was another woman, a secret that had grown in the shadows, undermining the trust and love Emily had held sacred. As he spoke, Emily felt as though the ground beneath her feet crumbled. The man she had trusted, the father of her children, had been living a lie. Her world tilted, the familiar contours of her life distorting into something unrecognizable. The love that had once been a sanctuary was now a source of deep, searing pain. Tears streamed down Emily's face, the rawness of her heartbreak spilling over. The silence that followed was thick with sorrow, the room heavy with the weight of shattered dreams. Mark reached out to her, but she recoiled, the betrayal too fresh, the wounds too deep. In the days that followed, Emily found herself surrounded by a circle of support. Friends and family rallied around her, their presence a balm to her wounded spirit. They offered listening ears, comforting embraces, and practical help as she navigated the turbulent emotions that threatened to engulf her. Her closest friend, Sarah, became a steadfast anchor, accompanying Emily through moments of despair and moments of tentative hope. "You're not alone," Sarah reminded her gently. "We'll get through this together." These words, simple yet profound, helped Emily begin to find footing amid the chaos. The children, blissfully unaware of the full extent of the pain, remained a source of strength. Their smiles, their innocent questions, and their need for love grounded Emily, reminding her of the life she still had to protect and nurture. She resolved to shield them from the pain while she grappled with her own. Emily's days became a delicate balance of managing heartbreak and maintaining the semblance of normalcy. She found solace in routines, school drop-offs, playdates, and quiet moments in the park, each small act a step toward healing. Yet, beneath the surface, the ache lingered, a constant reminder of the trust broken and the future uncertain. The betrayal forced Emily to confront difficult questions about herself and her relationship. She questioned where she had gone wrong, what signs she had missed, and whether forgiveness was possible. The journey was painful and fraught with doubt, but it also sparked a fierce determination to reclaim her life on her own terms. Mark sought to make amends, his remorse evident in the ways he tried to rebuild bridges. He attended counseling sessions, opened lines of communication, and expressed a desire to repair the damage. Yet, the road to recovery was uphill, and Emily was cautious, uncertain if the wounds could ever fully heal. Amid the turmoil, Emily discovered reserves of strength she hadn't known she possessed. She leaned into her community, finding empowerment in shared stories and collective resilience. She began to envision a future where honesty and self-respect formed the pillars of her life, even if that meant redefining love and family. One afternoon, as she sat in a sunlit cafe with Sarah, Emily reflected on the painful transformation she was undergoing. "It's like my whole world has been pulled apart," she admitted, her voice trembling. "But maybe this is the beginning of something new, a chance to find myself again." Sarah reached across the table, squeezing her hand. "You're stronger than you know, Emily. And whatever happens next, you'll face it with courage." In the quiet moments between heartbreak and hope, Emily began to piece together a path forward. It was a path marked by uncertainty but also by the promise of renewal. The betrayal had shattered her illusions, but it had also opened the door to a deeper understanding of herself and what she truly deserved. Though the pain was raw and the future unclear, Emily took the first steps toward healing, choosing to face the truth rather than hide from it. The journey ahead would be challenging, but she was no longer the woman who had blindly trusted. She was a woman awakening to her own strength, ready to reclaim her life on her own terms. Emily Collins sat quietly in the early morning light filtering through her kitchen window, the stillness of the house a stark contrast to the storm that had once raged within her. The days since the revelation had been a journey through pain, confusion, and long nights wrestling with heartbreak. Yet now, as the sun rose over the neighborhood, she felt a tentative sense of peace beginning to take root, a fragile but growing strength that carried her forward. Her reflection in the window caught her eye, a woman transformed, marked by the trials she had endured but not defined by them. Emily's journey from blind trust to painful awakening had been neither swift nor easy. It was a path paved with tears, sleepless nights, and moments when hope seemed distant. But through it all, she had discovered an inner resilience that surprised even herself. Her children, the heart of her world, had been her anchor throughout the upheaval. Watching their innocent smiles and hearing their carefree laughter reminded Emily of the reasons she fought to heal. She embraced motherhood with renewed determination, aware that her strength would be the foundation upon which they would rebuild their family's happiness. Community and friendship played a vital role in her recovery. The support from neighbors, friends like Sarah, and family had woven a safety net beneath her when she faltered. Their presence was a reminder that she was not alone, that healing was not a solitary endeavor but a shared human experience. Emily learned to lean on others without shame, finding comfort in vulnerability and connection. This process of rebuilding was also deeply personal. Emily confronted difficult truths about herself and her relationship with Mark, recognizing the importance of honesty, not only with others but within her own heart. She refused to let betrayal define her sense of worth or dictate her future. Instead, she chose to honor her pain by embracing truth as a guiding principle. In therapy sessions and quiet moments of reflection, Emily explored her emotions with courage and clarity. She learned to distinguish between forgiveness and forgetting, understanding that healing did not require erasing the past, but integrating it into a narrative of growth. This awareness empowered her to set boundaries and envision a life where trust could be rebuilt or replaced by self-respect. Mark's role in this evolving story remained complex. While he sought forgiveness and worked to amend the fractures in their relationship, Emily held firm to her need for transparency and integrity. Their interactions, once filled with uncertainty, grew into conversations marked by honesty and mutual respect, even if the road ahead remained uncertain. One afternoon, sitting in a sunlit park with her children playing nearby, Emily felt a profound sense of clarity. She understood that her choice to stay was not a sign of weakness or denial, but a testament to her strength and commitment to herself and her family. Love, she realized, was not merely a feeling but a practice, a deliberate act of trust, patience, and grace. The lessons Emily had learned extended beyond her personal life. She found herself advocating for others facing similar betrayals, sharing her story with compassion and courage. Her journey became a source of inspiration, a beacon for those navigating the difficult waters of heartbreak and healing. Through this, Emily transformed her pain into purpose. As the seasons changed, so too did Emily's outlook on life. She approached each day with renewed energy, embracing the balance between vulnerability and strength. The attraction she once felt for the idea of a perfect life gave way to a deeper respect for authenticity and resilience. She found fulfillment not in perfection but in the messy, beautiful reality of human connection. Evenings in the Collins household regained a sense of warmth and comfort. Family dinners resumed their place as sacred rituals where laughter and conversation flowed freely. Emily noticed a subtle shift in her own heart, the ability to love without losing herself, to hope without naivety. This equilibrium was hard-won but deeply cherished. One quiet night, as Emily watched her children drift to sleep, she reflected on how far she had come. The betrayal had been a profound wound, but it had also been a catalyst for transformation. She understood now that love and trust required patience, honesty, and above all, a commitment to personal integrity. Mark's presence in her life was now measured and mindful. Their relationship, whatever shape it would ultimately take, was grounded in the lessons they had both learned. Emily's choice to stay was not about clinging to the past, but about embracing the possibility of a future defined by respect and understanding. In the stillness of that moment, Emily felt a quiet joy, a recognition that she had reclaimed her narrative. She was no longer the woman who had blindly trusted, she was a woman who had faced betrayal, navigated the pain, and emerged with a heart open to life once more. Her story was far from over, but she met it with a newfound courage, ready to write the next chapters with authenticity and hope. Emily Collins had discovered that true strength lay not in avoiding hardship, but in embracing it, learning from it, and choosing to move forward with grace. The suburban neighborhood continued its gentle rhythm outside her window, a world of possibility unfolding with each new day. And within Emily, a profound resilience blossomed, a testament to the human capacity to heal, to love, and to trust again, on one's own terms. If you loved the story, like the video and subscribe.